The Moondrop Variations is one of the first IEMs that has impressed me with its sound quality. However, the Variations isn't perfect. While I think they do sound and look quite decent when it was first released, but today the competition has intensified and it isn't all that special anymore. Why am I talking about the Variations again? Well, that is because today we take a look at the spiritual successor to the Moondrop Variations, IO Audio Volare. So case candies, the leather case on the Volare is beautiful. It not only looks nice, it feels nice too. I like how IO Audio did not cut corners when it comes to accessories. The case is very functional with a spring-loaded mechanism to aid with tactility and the opening and closing of the case. In the tray below are the cables where it is packed super nicely. Their thoughtfulness shows as there is a partition to put the slack of cables, ensuring a very neat presentation. You also get 3 different interchangeable plugs here, 3.5mm, 2.5mm and 4.4mm. 5 sets of ear tips in 3 sizes are provided as well. The best part is that these ear tips are not e-waste. They are actually really decent, and my favorite of the bunch is the IOTT55. I found them the most balanced. In the last drawer is where you find the literature and a 6.3mm converter. Really, you can just start using the Volare however you want. Build quality, featuring a twist to the boring custom universal form. The Volare is one that is made from resin, but not any normal solid boring color or transparent resin. The Volare employs a resin that is infused with a whole lot of glitter. The way the chassis catches light is interesting, as it's constantly changing depending on the ambient light, which adds depth to the chassis. What is grey can suddenly sneak glitter bits depending on the lighting. It is also made by Hey Gears, a name that you should have heard quite a few times now before in my videos. The faceplate is cohesive and continues this interesting interplay with light. It also features some monochrome leaves on it. A smaller detail is that on the left faceplate, IO Audio has included an I, and on the right faceplate has an O embedded in it. The branding game on IO Audio is subtle and certainly classy. Volare adopts a 2-pin termination, which makes it super easy to swap cables, but I question, why would you want to swap out the stock cable? Made from 8 strands of oxygen-free silver-plated copper that has an impressive box rate from plug to the splitter. The ergonomics on the cable is fantastic. The softness coupled with the well-done box rate made this cable super easy to handle. The plug here is an interchangeable one that does not have the rubbish friction-based ones like what other brands employs. The ones here on the Volare has a locking feature to ensure that the contact point remains tight. IO Audio certainly did not cut any corners when designing the Volare. The Volare is a tri-brit IEM with 1 dynamic driver, 4 balance armatures and 4 ESTs. The implementation of drivers here is a very traditional approach, with the dynamic driver handling the bass while the balance armatures deal with the mid-range and the EST filling out the top end. The dynamic driver here has a silica gel suspension with a birch dome, which is quite cool. Sound. As the spiritual successor to the Moondrop Variations, the IO Audio Volare has huge shoes to fill. They share a common tonality where both of them are smooth, detailed with excellent treble extension. If you check out some graph out there, you might have noted that they don't appear super similar, with the Volare having more elevated trebles compared to the Variations. It is important to note that a FR curve is just a measurement of channel matching and not a tool to determine tone. Bass on the Volare also solves one complaint on the Variations, which is the sub-bass. On the Variations, the sub-bass sound quite detached from other frequency bands. The Volare is more cohesive sounding in that aspect. It transitions more smoothly to the mid-bass compared to the steep drop that is famed on the Variations. So let's talk about bass. Bass on the Volare is, as mentioned, chiefly rendered by the dynamic driver, which is a good choice as it allows for a more dynamic listen. I would say that for dynamics, the bass hits hard and has an overall really good texture. The Volare is still a sub-bass dominant earphone, but it takes a milder approach when transitioning to mid-bass. It does not aggressively dip when it comes to mid-bass, but rather have a linear transition. It harmonizes well with the mid-range despite mid-bass being meatier compared to other IEMs, with a significant dip in the mid-bass. Tonally, I found that it does render bass details pretty nicely and distinctly enough. Mid-range. The mid-range rendered by the Volare is suitable for popular music as it largely has an overarching smooth character that is paired with some added bite for resolution perception. I found that the balance is excellently done, making vocals very exciting to listen to. The balance armatures here work with great synergy with the electrostatic drivers to form a sort of timbre that adds some air and halation to the overall tone, which enhances the overall tonal colour of the Volare. Listening to YOASOBI on the Volare is a great pairing. Ayase's voice render here is quite creamy and silky that still has pretty detail. Think of it like some really ace butter with flicks of sea salt. Absolutely delicious. When listening to orchestras, however, I wish for there to be just a tad bit more bite. As for me, I like classical music to have a bit more attack as it gives better sense of space and separation. But that said, I found the Volare to be a very decent performer when it comes to instrument forward tracks as well. Just that, just a little bit more bite, it could be even better. Treble. 4 ESTs form the heart of treble for the Volare. I'm always a fan of EST drivers as the way they usually render treble is often very smooth and airy, tonally different from treble rendered by balance armatures. Treble here is airy and not one bit rough. Treble extension is also really tall. Agents or sibilants are not present on the Volare. Talking about soundstage, when it comes to width and height, from my experience, the Volare performs very well with both width and height. This is largely aided by its great treble performance, creating a very good sense of space. Depth and positioning, depth again is very good from the strong dynamics shown in the dynamic driver, which allows for better depth perception. Positioning is also strong from the overall clean presentation of music. Next up, some comparisons. So chiefly, I'll compare it to the Moondrop Variations. Versus the Moondrop Variations. I started this video saying that the Volare is the successor to the Moondrop Variations, and I still largely stand by that. The Volare fixes some of the negatives that some mentioned, such as aggressive mid-bass cut to create more clear mids. As such, the Volare sounds fuller with greater punch in the music compared to the Variations, which is not as dynamic sounding. I also found that the mid-range on the Volare to have a slightly thicker tone weight compared to the Variations, which makes it more versatile for different vocal types. Treble extension on the Volare surpasses that of the Variations as well, as it is just more effortless comparing between the two of them. If you're considering the Variations, I think you should seriously take a look at the Volare. Next up, versus another rather popular IEM, the TangZu Nezha. Now, the Nezha was quite a popular release from TangZu as it deviates from the natural warm tuning to a significantly warmer one. I found the Nezha to be largely enjoyable for its thicker rendering of things. Inside it is 6 balance armatures plus 1 EST. Despite it using an EST, it isn't a largely airy experience, while the focus is really delivering thicker mids. Compared to the Volare, I found the Volare technically more competent than the Nezha. The Volare is still more well-rounded by comparison as it suits more genres better. I found the overall sound of the Volare to be more cohesive and concise by comparison. The Nezha is great if you like your mids thick, but in other areas, the Volare is superior. Next up, some things I like and do not like about the Volare. So starting things off with what I like on Volare, I like how much thought has been put into the creation of this earphone. From the unboxing experience to the listening experience, everything has been premium and thought thoroughly. It has a sonic signature that is largely agreeable with many and is very well rounded as well. Technicalities on the Volare is superb. Now, what I do not like on the Volare, I think one of my main complaints would be that sometimes I wish for slightly more attack in the tone, as this is more evident when you listen to instrument forward music where you want instruments to be a bit more distinct and very easy to tell apart. While the Volare still does a good job, if it has that bit more bite, it will make it a bit more complete. So now my ratings, is this a blind buy, strongly consider, try first, or one that I would want to give my enemies? I think if you have $600 to spend and want to spend on something that can do almost everything, I think the Volare is a solid blind buy. It does everything well, but instrument forward tracks being good enough makes it a very solid IEM. The overall build quality has a lot of heart and is clearly well thought throughout. Finally, conclusion. I found the Volare to be a largely enjoyable product that is well thought out and should appeal to many. Thank you once again for watching a Super Chunk Super Audio Show. If you like the content so far, please kindly press the like and subscribe button somewhere down below, as it will help me out immensely. And I recorded the whole thing with the cable on. I thought I forgot. But that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you guys soon.